Hey Yaakov, welcome back. We're live again, and it's good to see you. It's good to be connected, even though we're both in our own little Corona zones. Um, Obviously we're not together, uh, so we're doing this live via the internet, which is really cool, and I'm excited to be doing this with you. Obviously, the world's gone bonkers since our last podcast, and today we're going to be talking about Corona. Um, but maybe not in a way that most people kind of experience. I think this is going to be getting a little bit more into our unique human experience and how we deal with it, and our response, learning to deal with our own minds. Anyhow, really excited to get involved in this with you, and I'm loving the backgrounds. So, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, maybe we could just talk a little about how we feel about what's going on. I mean, I think a lot of people are just kind of unsure of how we feel about this, and there's a lot of different feelings going around, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of I think a lot of people are go between two extremes. Like this is something unique and apocalyptic and totally wild, or it's like just another thing that we have to live through and it'll blow over soon and life will just go back to regular, normal, humdrum way it's been before. So what do you think?
I think it's a great question, and I think that I have a lot of thoughts about it, because on some things are definitely going to change. Like I do think that in some ways we are kind of getting broken out of our box, whether it's sometimes maybe certain comforts that we have gotten so accustomed to always being there and always being certain realities. For example, the idea that suddenly, airlines might shut down, or I might not be able to cross certain borders that were never an issue before. Um, I think that's the first time I've ever experienced that in my life, and it's a shock. So that's definitely something that's like, I think, it's the kind of thing that we might get back to afterwards and be like, okay, that was just crazy, and you lose it. But there are certain things that we're definitely learning, and I think that we grow from as human beings, whether it becomes a definitive, new pathway of living life. We're definitely going to learn new experiences, and having those experiences, we won't be the same people anymore. I do think that, like, for example, one thing we were talking about earlier today, I was thinking that childhood education could change somewhat from it. Maybe not in a drastic way, but in a way that many people, let's say, that haven't been using the internet as a means of educating children might now get much more involved in it. I know that many teachers, many educators that are no longer able to be in the classroom are now using video conferencing or even recorded videos to reach out to kids. I know even some of my kids' Rabbeim that maybe don't even necessarily have a smartphone, but now they're making videos every single day for their Talmidim, because it's necessary. And a lot of the kids, the parents have smartphones, have computers, have things that kids can get on for a couple minutes. And that opens up a lot of new avenues, to being able to, supplement education and be able, or even sometimes now opening up new opportunities. I want to go away. I want to take my family to the States for a little bit. I want to, go visit somewhere, or I want to move maybe somewhere that's a little bit further out. Maybe online education is now more of something that more accessible, and another idea.
It's funny you're bringing up all these things which are really different. My daughter was saying, hey, maybe people will actually learn how to wash their hands.
Yeah, it's pretty
like
funny.
you watch the press conferences with Bibi Netanyahu, and he's getting up there and telling people how to wash their hands and how to be conscious of spreading germs. Like, these are good things for people to know.
Yeah, one of my friends told me that his kid turned to him and said, "Well, now every time I come out of the bathroom, I wash my hands." And I was like, "That's great," Gewalt, you know. But and there's for sure there's so many funny things and wonderful things that maybe we should have been doing all along, and people are now more conscious, like, you know, more conscious. Hey, there's a major transfer of germs all the time. And the truth is, you know, I think that a lot of people are more tuned into it, especially if you get a couple of nasty flus, or you read up a little bit about how bad, you know, influenza actually is, and damaging it is in the world. But even so, the intense strains of influenza aren't as rampant as now corona. I mean, that's really the big issue of corona, is it's not just you know, higher mortality rate, but it's also much more rampant. You know, you're sharing it before you even know that you're sick. So, well, for sure, I think this is, you know, the world is definitely being educated moment by moment.
Okay, so here's another thing I wanted to bring up with you, which is, how do you feel about all the apocalyptic doomsayers? I mean, I personally, I've never ever liked people who predict the future or predict the end. It always drives me crazy when people are like, well, see, this is happening, look at the news, and now Mashiach and this and that, or whatever. They have some kind of prediction, and especially nowadays, and there's so much stuff going around on social media, which is like, and people are making stuff up left and right. They're making up makubal things. Oh, this makubal wrote in some ksav, and they just make up stuff. I made up stuff also just for the heck of it, but the stuff I made up was obviously satire. But people are no, it's
I thought you were going to say it's more quality.
no, definitely not.
Yeah.
But
I do think that it's, well, I'll put it this way. We're definitely in a messianic process, and there's no doubting that. Um, I mean, obviously, I'm only speaking like a doomsday. I'm only speaking from like a Jewish perspective, and it's very, to me, it's quite obvious and clear that this is the path towards Mashiach. Whether Mashiach is going to come now, in 10 years, in 100 years, I don't really. I'm fine with it. I'm not worried about it. But we're definitely in the process. It's very clear. We've returned to Israel after 2,000 years of being in Geulah. That is a bigger, in my mind, I mean, maybe it's not fair to say, but it seems to me like it's an even bigger miracle than Sinai. Like, that's great. Sinai was phenomenal, and the truth is, it changed the nature of the world and the exodus from Egypt. But coming back to Eretz Yisrael, that's never happened before. A nation returning home after 2,000 years, the Jewish people. I mean, like, that's just nuts. And we're back here. We're back here living in Eretz Yisrael. And as things are moving along, there's definitely some parts to this that are very messianic. And in terms of, you know, when it's going to happen or how fast, I'm not into like, you know, putting dates to things, but not recognizing the process. Well, I'm not sure if you're going that far, but in that case, and that's okay, we can disagree on that. But I definitely think that we got to recognize that this is a phenomenal process, and things are really going crazy. I mean, listen, there are some people that like to, yeah, I love that background, the spheros.
well, you started getting all messianic and and spiritual on me, so we had to bust that out.
That's true,
Um,
but we're gonna have to get and explain what that is. But that's not for tonight.
no, not for tonight. Um, okay, so I hear. So if you're saying that, well, clearly, and I agree with you 100%. I feel very strongly that the return to Eretz Yisrael, that things that have happened in the past, we could look back and say, you know, you could verisas achorai, Hashem says in the Spazig
Right.
Parsha. You can look back and see clearly what's happened. What's happened to us is very messianic. It's definitely Geulah. I mean, I look out of my window here in Mabit Shemesh, and hills that, you know, you two also, hills that were used to be just empty are now filled with buildings and filled with Jews, and they're coming in from all over the world. So definitely, it's something completely, you know, it hasn't happened, and it's happening now, and that's obvious to me at least, and to you. So we agree on that. But it's the people who get into the details and start pulling out stuff and saying, well, look at this and look at that, and start predicting, that really gets me. Yeah, I don't know. That just annoys. That just really annoys me. It's funny because I was just reading over here in Rabbi Nachman says over here about the Machashvei HaKitzin. This is something that I've always hung on to. What does he say here? Basically, he says that the people who are Machashvei HaKetz and they tell you, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. He says, I'm not quoting it exactly because I'm not finding the exact words. But he says, anytime someone tells you, oh, this and this is going to happen and Mashiach is going to come at a certain time, he says, I can guarantee you it's not going to happen at that time. Because if they tell you they know, they don't know. What was that Soul Farm line?
Those who know don't tell, and those who tell don't know.
Those don't say don't know.
That's right. So I mean, I do agree with you. I know there's a great story from Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky that some guy got up and was giving this whole speech and saying Mashiach's going to come on this day. And Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky got up and he gave a clap on the beam and he said, I guarantee you Mashiach's not coming on the day that this guy just said. And so everybody came over to him. They said, even if you disagree, you don't believe Mashiach can come on every day. So he said, I'll tell you, the truth is that if you believing that Mashiach is going to come, doesn't mean that I believe he's going to come today. It means I believe that he's going to come. To believe that he's going to come today, maybe he will, maybe he won't. But if anybody walks out of this room thinking Mashiach's going to come on this day, and then when he doesn't come on this day, they're now going to doubt whether Mashiach's coming at all, that's a real issue. He goes, so I'd rather everybody know, hey, he's not coming on this day, but he's going to come.
However, exactly, and that's what's bothered me for years. I remember, years ago when we had the second Lebanon war and the rockets were falling all over the place, and people were pulling out Ramuzim and all kinds of proofs to show that this is the beginning of the end. The evil that comes from the north, etc. And it bothered me to no end. It was like, what if it's not? What if you're wrong? And then people get all tripped out and they get all excited about, hey, this is really the end. And it's not exactly what you're saying. I mean, to me, I feel like if you want to talk about what is the spiritual meaning of coronavirus and da-da-da-da, to me, first of all, I feel like it has to be a very personal thing. What does it mean to me? Because everyone has a different message. Whatever happens in the world, Hashem could send one thing or a big thing that happens to lots of people, and the message is unique to each person. So is there a message for everyone that, and also another thing you can look and say, I was talking to our brother Bensi, and he was telling me he loves listening to all the different takes. There's so many different tzaddikim with their own take on it, and each of them, you kind of know what they're going to say because this is their trip. Each one has their trip, and so they're just going to interpret what's happening now within their own trip and their own way of thinking. But I feel like for it to be a real message, you have to look inside yourself and say to yourself, well, what am I doing, and what can I do better? And like, for example, for me, I think about what does it mean to be in bidud? What does it mean to be separated from others? So we know that the mitzvah has to go badad yeshev, mechutz lamachane moshavo. So all of us are a little bit mechutz lamachane. So I feel like, okay, I'm a little bit of a mitzvah. I could start to think like, what is it like to be a mitzvah where I'm disconnected from people and I'm on my own? And we know the mitzvah is certain things that are associated with why is a mitzvah, lashon hara. So I can say to myself, hey, Yaakov, maybe you should think a little bit more about the way you talk about other people. But am I going to go tell everybody, this is the message of coronavirus to the world, that you all have to, or this is why it's happening? I don't know why it's happening. I could say, maybe I could take a little muster for myself, and I could say for myself, or I could even talk about it with you. We could put it out there. But I'm not saying this is why it's happening. I'm not saying this is the global reason. I'm saying it's something to think about.
Right. So I think that on one level, there's like I agree with you. Like there's an aspect of ani adati, like that sometimes I can know what this means for me. But I think that also on like on another level, I also happen to be like what you said from Bensi. I've been saying that as well. Like I love the fact that people are ascribing meaning. And I think that's really what we do as human beings, is we're trying to interpret reality in a way that it means something to me, and it's not just random. And I believe that this is a deep truth in Avodas Hashem, is that Hashem is always communicating to us, and He's communicating to each one of us. I know that Rav Hutner has been quoted as saying this, like, when something happens to the whole world, we have a harder time ascribing Hashgacha Pratis, because we say, well, we're all suffering from coronavirus. But the truth is, it's not true. Every one of us is having our own experience of it, and even though we might be sharing a shared stimulus, we're each experiencing it in our own way. And when each person kind of responds and they say, well, Hashem is telling me something, how do I respond to this? How do I want to allow this to change me? And through our own responses and through our own experiences, and as we're learning about what's actually going on, we actually can respond and make meaning. And it really does mean something. It's interesting today. I was learning with my kids. Every day we learn with them something else. We're going through different mitzvos from the Sefer HaChinuch. And we were talking about Kiddush HaChodesh and the power of what Hashem did. And this is a Torah that Abba always said when we were kids, is that Hashem made Kiddush HaChodesh as opposed to making it an easy 28 days in the month and 12 months in a year, and making the lunar and solar calendars work out together and making everything work. Hashem Dafka made that the lunar calendar and the solar calendar does not work. And we have to make a yichud between the two, because Hashem wants us to be partners with Him in Ma'aseh Bereishis. The same reason why bread doesn't grow from the ground. It's made, and we have to work on it. We have to improve on it. This was the famous story between Rebbe and Antoninas, right? And Antonina said, God make everything perfect. And he said, no, God Dafka didn't. He wants us to work and improve and become partners with Him. And I think a big aspect of becoming partners with Him in this is when Hashem sends a message to us, and He is communicating to us, how do we respond? And I think that for many people, they don't know how to personalize it, and they don't know how to say, well, what is this personal message for me? So hearing it from a tzaddik is a great way, because this tzaddik has been building his relationship with Hashem, and he has been opened up, and he has been practicing this style of making meaning and being like, wow, what does Hashem, what's Hashem communicating to me? And then they say what they think it is. But I really do believe that it's a really personal avoda. And like, for me, I the corona does mean something. I love the fact that people are like, kara, is it chance? Nah, or coronation, or like all these different cute things. And I think it's really meaningful. Like when Hashem is looking down from on high and He's like, look, my boys are not just taking this as stam chance. They're truly accepting it and taking it and trying to make sense of it, and they're trying to bring it into themselves in a way that actually will create deep change.
Mm-hmm. I love that. As long as we do it with humility and not claim to be those who know.
Right.
And ani hachoze, I am the seer. All right. I mean, maybe some people could say that. Shmuel Hanavi can say that if you're a seer.
Right, and not only Shmuel Hanavi to see. I think that each one of us, the truth is that each one of us might be able to really experience this in a very deep and authentic way that will actually mean something, almost to the point of saying like, wow, this really is it. Like for me, this is really exactly what needs to happen. And this is this is my story. I know why this is. I'll tell you, there are a few things that people did say that really did jump out at me. Obviously, we're going from Adar into Nisan. So my friend reached out to me, my friend Izzy Rabin, and he's like, Yehudi, you got to look at the last chapter in Shmuel Beis. And over there, so I look at it and I'm like, whoa, David HaMelech is counting the nation. He's trying to find out how many men he has in his army. And this was also last week's parsha, right? In Parshas Kisisa, when you're counting the people, don't count them by number, because that brings it could bring a magefa. And so it was in our parsha, and here it is in Shmuel, and once again, David counts all the people, and there's a huge magefa, and Moshe has this line. David has this line. He goes, don't just kill all the sheep. It's my issue. And that also was like, whoa, like who are all the sheep? just the simple, that we're just following. Like anybody who's stopping and saying, wait, don't just kill all the sheep. There's something that I need to learn from this. I need to take this personal. I need to take responsibility for this story. I thought that was phenomenal. Like that also hit me just like, whoa, like Yehuda, how are you going to take responsibility for the story? I think that maybe I have too much Jewish guilt, and I kind of sometimes feel like I'm always the one who's causing everything bad to happen. But I think this is a little bit bigger than me.
Definitely you,
my
man.
my ego is not that big. Um, but for sure, but so anyhow, so David Melech then goes, well, what could I do? And so the Navi Gad comes and talks to him, and he ends up going, and they go to Aravna, and he buys the land where he's going to build a base of Migdash from Aravna, and he brings Karbanos, and that stops the virus. It stops the Magefa, and like this is something that every year coming to Pesach, I'm always like, oh man, we gotta do something. We gotta bring carbon Pesach. Like, what are we, crazy? It's like, if we don't bring a carbon Pesach, we're gonna have kares.
It's so
And
funny the way you say that. What are we, crazy? We're not going to do it. And so many people out there be like, what are you, crazy? You're going to go bring a carbon Pesach? I love it. I love it the way you say it the other way, though. Fantastic.
well, we gotta bring a carbon Pesach. Like, what are we doing? This is every single year we're getting close, and we don't, Tomo Hotra B'tzibur. You don't need everything. The only thing you need up there is a mizbeach. And I actually saw it. There's this organization that does they do this the reenactment of what that avodah looked like in the base of Mikdash, kind of, and they said that they looked into the halachic feasibility of a concrete mizbeach, and I was so pumped, because normally you can't use stones that are cut, and so how are you going to use stones like natural stones? But concrete is not cut by metal, right? Metal is used for
Right.
weapons, for weaponry, and therefore the Torah says you can't use it for mizbeach, and yet poured concrete is not an issue.
No, it's interesting because I'm saying even the way the Gemara in Zvachim describes how they built the Mizbeach is that they brought stones and sid and they put it
Right.
together like that. So it was similar to concrete in a sense.
Well, I think sid is some form of concrete, and maybe
Yeah,
it's
it
not
is.
exactly the same.
Not exactly the same, but yeah, it's the same idea. It was small stones held together by some kind of binding type of earthy binding agent.
Right. And so I think that's really cool. I mean, can you imagine if we can do it, imagine if we can get up there. And, we're not trying to change any of the status on the Temple Mount. We're just going to go up there on Erev Pesach and bring carbon Pesach.
Sure. Just flood the Temple Mount with hundreds of thousands of Jews slaughtering animals.
First of all, you make shluchim, and you're doing it in 3 sets, or whatever. I mean, I understand that it is.
No. You're right. No, it doesn't have to be so crazy.
Also, the Jewish world is wealthy enough right now that I think that we might have, throughout the years, we've always had, thank God, different, over different time periods, we've had a nice, wealthy Jewish community. The Jewish community is definitely wealthy enough that if they can pull off, all the, so many people want to give money for being by Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Nachman and all the different gatherings. I'm sure we can put together money and an organizational system to pull off bringing all the carbonas and moving in a healthy system.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you also have to remember that you only need a kazayas of meat for each person. That's it.
Yeah. It's
doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah, it's not every Jew in the world that has to actually be on Temple Mount. Just got to get up there with the carbon,
right?
Do it, and that could be phenomenal. I mean, I do believe that it's one of the few things. It's interesting. It's one of the few things that you get kares if you don't do it, right? It's a carbon that you get kares if you don't do it. If you're able to do it and you don't do it, you get kares. And there's also one other part to it that I just love. The Gemara, that the Gemara says that when someone converts to becoming a Jew, there's a certain carbon that they need to bring. And the truth is, every one of us really is a convert to Judaism, and a carbon Pesach is the carbon that every one of us brings in our conversion to being a Yid. And I just find that so fantastic. And when it comes, like, obviously, Yitzias Mitzrayim is the cornerstone of all of our Yiddishkeit. That everything that we're doing is, Hashem, you took us out of Mitzrayim. That's how I know that you exist. That's why I do mitzvos. That's why I keep Shabbos. Like everything that we do is because you took us out, and this is the story. And I know that all of history is following the story, and everything else that happens, all the hashkacha that I see is based on this, initial experience of understanding that like Hashem, you are a player in the story. You didn't leave the world. You didn't, there's nothing left to chance. You mamish step stage by stage. And the ultimate Geulah is going to once again even take us out to the next level. I mean, I don't even know how it's going to make Mitzrayim pale in comparison, except that in time, we've kind of lost the glory maybe of Yetzias Mitzrayim. But when once you begin to go into it and go, oh my gosh, what really happened then? That's amazing. But that's really what we're doing. We're bringing this Carbon Pesach to commemorate that and to really say, like, Hashem, I'm yours. And I really want to bring that carbon more than any other.
What's interesting also, to bring it back to our current plague situation, is that the first Carbon Pesach was brought and we were all locked in our houses and weren't allowed to go out. We were eating the Carbon Pesach while Hashem was sending the plague throughout the land. Did you see that Balaturim? Someone was sending around a video of the Balaturim on Parshas Bo. Did you see that?
I did see it. Yeah, please share it with us.
So basically, the Balaturim says that there's several times. What was the exact word? You know what? You want me to just pull it out?
Sure.
Yeah, 1 second.
Anyhow, guys, we're having fun with the backgrounds tonight. Pulled up a whole bunch of different fun backgrounds because we're not together. We can't share a fun, the same background. We figured, why not have fun jumping around to these different ones? So all the funky ones that look like cells are actually all coronavirus. We got a couple of these funky coronavirus pictures. They're wild. Some of them, they're so beautiful. And this one actually somehow is supposed to be breaking it down if you look closely at what it says over here. I don't understand this. My wife is some kind of cytologist or cytotechnologist, so she understands a bunch of this, but I don't. But it's cool and it's beautiful. Truly incredible.
They are really pretty, and they cause all this death and destruction.
An underwater and a forest scene.
All right, so here it is. Here's the Balaturim that was going around.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "V'achlu es habasar balayla hazeh, tzli eish umatzos al merorim yochluhu." So you got to eat the meat of the Carbon Pesach on the night of Pesach, roasted with matzos marom yochluhu. So the Balaturim says that the word yochluhu we find 4 times throughout Tanakh. Twice in Pesach, and there's another time it says Aaron Aban of Yochluhu by the Miluim when they were inaugurating the Mishkan.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Balaturim says that just like over there, the same thing, that they were told me Pesach Ol Moed Lo Teitzu, that they were not allowed to leave a certain place, they were confined. So too over here, the same thing, but so there's a connection. Yochluhu, Aaron Aban of Yochluhu, they had to eat it in a confined space. They were confined to a certain place, just like over here they were confined, they weren't allowed to go out. And the last one is Ki Ma'asv of Yochlu. It's a pasuk in Yeshaya, which is talking about the Geulah Acharona, the final Geulah. And he says, the Itkash Geulah Acharona l'Geulah Rishona. That the final Geulah is compared to the first Geulah.
Wow.
So that's all he says. He doesn't say, but clearly there's some kind of Indian that the final Geulah will also be. So again, here we go. I'm getting sucked into the predictors.
That's right. To the messianic.
I'm not predicting anything. I'm just saying, like, it's cool.
But what does that pasuk in Yeshaya mean? Ki ma'asva v'yechluhu. You read the whole pasuk to us?
Oh,
we have it.
Find the whole pasuk. I have to pull out a Navi Yeshaya. I don't have one handy right this second.
Just tell me where the pasuk is. I'll bring it up on.
Ma'asva v'yechluhu. See, now I lost the pasuk. It's in Yeshaya 62:9. Isaiah 62:9, the path of the righteous, man. No, sorry, that was Ezekiel.
I'll bring it up quickly.
25:17. The most famous verse that's not even real.
That's true. What we say? We say Isaiah 62:9.
62:9.
Yeshaya.
Like I
Sorry.
said, without predicting anything, it's just, it is neat to look around, and I do agree, it is neat to look at things and say, hey, because like you said, we're definitely in some kind of Geulah process. But how it plays out, it's fun. It's fun to look at things
So,
and say,
right. So we have the classic pasuk Al Chomosayich Yerushalayim Efkad Yishem Kol Hayom V'Kol Halayla Tamid LaYechsha Mizkirim Es Hashem Al Dami Lachem. Okay, I'm just going to read it in English. Upon your walls, O Jerusalem, have I posted guardians. All the day and all the night, continuously they will never be silent. You who remind Hashem, not be silent. Do not give him silence until he establishes, until he makes Yerushalayim a source of praise in the land. Okay, can kind of start relating to this.
right? And
Hashem
we
is
say that these psukim in Tikkun Chatzos.
right.
We say,
Hashem is
Al Dami Lachem, don't be silent. Don't, every night cry out all the time.
Hashem has sworn by his right hand and by his powerful arm, I will no longer give your grain as food for your enemies, and the sons of stranger will not drink your wine for which you have toiled, which is obviously talking about returning home to the land. For those who have harvested it,
right? So it's like, boom!
right,
Now we have amazing wine from Eretz Yisrael, world-class wine.
right. So
So
for
that's
those who
another
have
prophecy,
harvested
by
it,
the way, clearly come true. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says,
right. So meaning all those, meaning all the different Amoraim that brought down all the different signs of Mashiach. I forgot who it was who said the greatest sign of all is when Eretz Yisrael once again give forth its fruits, and that we
right,
are truly experiencing today. And it says, for
right,
those
and
who
not
have
only that,
harvested,
but that the ones that we bring it in and we eat it. One of the klalas is that we might have harvest, but the enemies will come and take it away from us.
right. And so that's it. For those who have harvested it, will eat it and will praise Hashem. And those who have gathered it in will drink it in my holy courtyards. So, I mean, I don't know what the story is with this. And one of the things that I think have always scared me, and should this, you can tell me maybe if there's some prophecy about this, but like I think a lot of people have this feeling like World War II, we were able to make it back, kind of people got stuck in Europe. The borders closed. And now we're like, we don't want that to happen, right? We want everybody else to come back home from Chutz La'aretz and make it back home to Eretz Yisrael safely, flying comfortably without masks on their faces, without being scared of flying on airlines. And but I think that that's definitely something like, it's definitely something to being back in Eretz Yisrael and coming back home, and maybe on some level people are getting maybe complacent, being like, okay, when Mashiach comes, like I'll hop on a plane. And the truth is that there is chazals that back that up. I forgot the Navi says, if I remember where this chazal is, it's a medrash that says that when we turn to Hashem, we say, Hashem, when will you bring back the base of Migdash so we can bring you karbanas 3 times a year? And Hashem says, 3 times a year? When I give you the Bayis Shlishi, you're going to be coming from all over once a month, and some of you will come and even visit once a week. And so the Gemara asked in the base medrash, she said, how could this be? They're going to come once a week. You can't get to Yerushalayim from around the world once in a week. And so Reb Levi said, Reb Levi said, we're going to fly on clouds. And
right, you mentioned this in one of our previous podcasts.
Could be. I think I'll put it this way. I think about this one all day long. So it makes sense that I'm going to repeat this one, and I probably will repeat it many, many more times. But I think that's the Indian, is that there is, it's okay if not everybody comes home and is not here. But on the other hand, when the gates are open, like, I'll be honest with you, this past Tisha B'Av, I was crying about this a lot. I was like, telling to everybody, I'm like, what's going to happen if in 300 years our grandkids are going to be, living in China, and they're going to say, now we're in Gullus, China. What happened? Well, when we were in Gullus, America, and the doors were open to return back to Eretz Yisrael, but not everybody took advantage and went back home. So now we're still traveling the world in Gullus. I remember hearing a story about this with Spain, that supposedly, I think Reb Shlomo said this story or something, that supposedly before the Inquisition, there was a point in time the Spanish community was incredibly wealthy, which is kind of part of the reason why the government, but the whole Inquisition was a weird thing. Like they weren't just trying to get all Jews; they were trying to get only like the Jewish community that didn't convert. They were fine with. It was only that there were some
For a
people
little
that
while.
for a while, right? No, so there were some Jews that converted, and then they had this issue because once they converted, they were now allowed to rise and walk in any circles that they wanted, of owning land and becoming like really prestigious people, and and that's when they began to say like, oh, this is not good. Everybody knows that they're fake. They're fakely converted. So that's when the Inquisition started. But even when the beginning of the Inquisition, they were still like the Jews that were openly Jews were like they weren't like going after them as much until finally at some point they just said, okay, enough, like all Jews out. Um,
Right.
but supposedly before that, I'm trying to remember where I read this, and maybe somebody can fact check me. This might not be real, but I heard that there was some point that they were offered by, I don't know who was controlling Israel at the time, but they were offered to buy Israel back, and
It was the
supposedly
Ottoman Turks.
the Ottoman Turks, and they got offered to buy the land, and supposedly some of the Chevra went there, and they're like, dude, this land is horrible. It's dirt. There's nothing growing. Like we don't want it, and they didn't buy Eretz Yisrael back, and so the Gullahs continued. And so I
I've
feel
heard
like
this.
on one hand, I really feel like we need to appreciate Eretz Yisrael. Like the gates are open, they're still open, and we gotta bring everybody back home and show the love. And Baruch Hashem, we're very close to having Rov Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. So Baruch Hashem,
Shtabach Shemo La'ad.
yeah. Can we jump this conversation to something else I wanted to bring up?
Yeah, why not?
I was thinking, and I think I mentioned this on like some of the Chabura chats and things like that. Um, I think that one of the key lessons that I'm learning from this Corona, and I think it's just maybe something that we can focus our minds in and learn from it, is to observe and notice what information am I bringing in to my mind and into my thoughts and my heart throughout the day. If you're just consuming large amounts of fear information and panic and people bugging out and just reading like intense statistics and listening to people debating over whether we should freak out about corona or not, then you just now living with those thoughts and with those emotions, and obviously it's going to come out in your actions. And when we can study and we can observe the intake and the diet of information that we're feeding on, and say, hey, I can choose the information that I want to be tuned into. I can choose what information I'm inhaling, and I think that's really a huge step right now with the having this experience, having the corona whole nuttiness going around, and it's time to stop and say, what am I bringing into my mind? Yeah, maybe we need to have this background. We need a little nature.
Get in the forest, baby.
Yeah, but to bring in like what am I listening to? While I'm doing nothing, or what am I thinking about? What are those ruminating thoughts? And be able to process them. Process, the nerve. If you get nervous, that's okay. There was one rabbi who said a absolutely beautiful thing. And I think that obviously it's nice hearing different rabbanim and different people and different ideas. But one of these rabbanim said that what was the issue with the Jews with the Egel? Said that here's how he said it. Said that we know that after the Egel, Hashem gave us the mitzvah of building the Mishkan, and the Mishkan was like a tikkun for the Chera Egel. And what happened? We started building it right after Yom Kippur, right? Because a few days after Yom Kippur. And when did we finish building the Mishkan? On the 25th of Cheshvan, Kislev, right? Chafei Kislev, which is why later on Hanukkah, came to get the Chanukah Samizbeach, But why didn't we do the Chanukas Hamishkan until Rosh Chodesh Nisan, like we're about to do the Nisim? So what happened? Why did we wait all these months? So this Rav said he said that Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, I believe, asked this question, and he said, well, it's pashut that they had incredible siyata deshmaya to be able to finish building the entire Mishkan without any power tools in only 2 months, or less than 2 months, right? So you have, the Tishrei, Cheshvan, and then Kislev. So maybe a little over 2 months, actually. And yet, we didn't even need it until Nisan. So why did we need the siyata deshmaya? Why didn't Hashem just let us build it slowly until Nisan? So he said that Hashem wanted to teach us something. The Egel, we got scared, we jumped into building it, and we jumped into using it. Hashem says, jumping into building something is great. Build the Mishkan real fast, but then pause. Tinshom, breathe deeply. And he was saying the same thing with this corona. He goes, hey, you get freaked out, you want to run to the store and buy something? Great, go to the store. You finished freaking out, you're finished doing your panic buying? Good, now sit down, breathe. Now think about what's going on. I'm not telling you to, to become superhuman and to control your initial reaction. Have your initial reaction, but then breathe and think about how do I want this to affect me? I'm having this experience, this coronavirus experience. Where is this going to take me as a human being? Where is it going to take me as a father? Where is it going to take me as a compassionate person? Where is it going to take me as a Jew? And let us stop and let us think and let us decide, how do I want this experience to take me? I don't need to just let anybody else's thoughts to drive me. I don't need to listen to every radio station or TV show or whatever it is. Let me choose. Pause, breathe, and choose. How do you want to respond to this situation?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was so huge. I think really that's the first step of taking responsibility for this is, it's not just, don't just let things run you. Don't let things just take you away. Let's get to a greater degree of consciousness and self-awareness and decide how we want to respond to the situation. I happen to think that one of the classic responses, which has been definitely triggering me and really bothering me, is people are like, oh, are you scared of getting sick? I know that I probably said this to you like 10 times in the last week, but it's not about us as individuals getting sick. Baruch Hashem, I mean, listen, the numbers are that every person who's listening to this, you're going to be fine. Because the statistics show you're going to be fine. But the threat is a threat to the community. That there's going to be a significant number of people in the community that are going to suffer if, first of all, if we get hit all at the same time, and if we all get sick at the same time, there's not enough medical equipment and medical services and medical people to be able to handle everybody getting sick at one time. And because this is spread so fast, we could be dealing with that. And that's kind of what's been the issue in Italy and other places. And we don't really know what's going on in China. I don't know if anybody will ever find out. But the point is that if we get sick slowly, here, a part of the population spread out over enough time, we'll be fine. We really will. And if it's like about me getting sick, then you're right. Oh, I'll give you a hug. I'm not worried about being sick. No, it's not about me giving you a hug. It's about me giving you a hug because I don't want to get you sick. And I don't want to be the conduit that's going to get everybody sick. And I want to recognize my role in the community as opposed to thinking about my own selfish individual, like, oh, I'm worried about getting sick.
Yeah, when you think about it that way, it elevates the whole conversation. And it really also, it's a very deep lesson in Arevas. It's like, major part of Yiddishkeit is about connecting. It's about being a connector from one to another, whether it's connecting from the previous generation to the next generation, or when we connect other Jews one to the other. And this is such a physical manifestation of that. Like, yeah, you're right. Like you said, the stats for young, healthy people like us and our children, thank God, we're not scared. I'm not scared of. But like you said, it's about just passing it on to the next person, and eventually it's going to hit somebody which is not going to be healthy. So we do have to be careful. And it's funny because it also makes me think again spiritually about Lashon Hara. Because a
Right.
lot of times, right, we'll say something which like, I don't really believe it, or I'm not going to think any less of that guy because whatever, I'm not a judgmental type of guy. So I'm just telling you a funny story. But I might not think less of that guy, but it's going to pass on to somebody else, and somebody else, mamash, like a virus. And someone's going to get hurt because of it eventually if we keep on talking and
That's
passing it on.
right.
And you know,
I actually just had a powerful experience of that where I said something on our family chat, and and like I didn't mean it in any bad way. I just was simply stating the facts as I saw it, and then somebody else was like, "Wow, like that was like really like lashon hara about a lot of people." And I was like, "Whoa." Like I totally didn't mean it in a bad way, and I totally wasn't even. I was just expressing, an idea. And you're so right. Like that's mamish what it is. I didn't. For me, it was like I didn't even realize it. But how is this going to affect the community, and how is this going to affect other people's perceptions and their living and their life? And it's such a powerful that is such a crazy idea. I know that Reb Chaim spoke about the idea of lashon hara, that we really need to focus in on that, and obviously nega, you know, there's different types of nega or negaim, but or magefa, I don't know exactly. Maybe those are two different things.
yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
Well, nega refers to the tsaras, which is very like a wound or
Right,
like a
but
blemish.
I guess the correlation between the two of them, which you mentioned earlier, is the idea of bidud.
Right.
Bada yeshev michutz lamachane, and over here we have an aspect of bidud. I guess the in some ways I guess it's connected, but some ways not so much. But yeah, that idea of like bada yeshev michutz lamachane, like that each one of us is going to be alone, and lashon hara can break us apart. And if we think about the coronavirus just in terms of how is it affecting me, then that's like one aspect of bidud. But if we think about the bidud, where I go into isolation and I'm thinking myself for myself, meaning I'm choosing how am I going to respond to this situation, that aspect of bidud, but recognizing that my actions affect everybody else. Right? It's a different way of looking at the bidud. It's that the bidud is, because many people do it the other way. It's like I'm absorbing everybody else's panic and fear and negative information and negative inputs and all that jazz. I'm just sucking it all in, but then I only think about myself. And here it's saying, no, I need to think for myself and be alone. And that's like his bodidus is when we can go and just be like alone. Okay, what is actually going on in my experience? What's happening in my body? What's happening in my mind? What's happening in my heart? And now how can I go and be a positive influence in the world around me? What's my responsibility to make this world a better
Well, I think that's both. I mean, it's not two separate things. I mean, that was the whole point of Mitzora being on his own, is because he was acting antisocial and he was damaging the societal fabric the way he was behaving. I think the pasuk in Mishnah is Nirgan Mafred Aluf. He's like, he's the one who's creating separation. So you have to be on your own and think about it. Go to your room. It's funny, we're all in the house together over here. All the kids are together, and I live in a pretty small apartment. And anytime my kids are getting on each other's nerves, and I mean they're getting on my nerves, and I'm working from home, it's like, you're gonna have to go into bidud now because you're being antisocial. And you're gonna have to think about what you did and think about how you're gonna deal with the others, and so it's a very, very cool thought what you said about me as part of society, me as a connection to others, me in connection to the whole community, and how do we deal with that? It's cool. And it's cool also, even my kids had turned to me and said, there's so much good coming out of this, because just the fact that we're all stuck together, it's like we have to learn how to live with each other. We're gonna have to learn how to deal with each other, and how to organize our days in a healthy way, how not to step all over each other, not to get each other's nerves. So it's like, let's figure out how the small society, like our family, will learn how to be with each other and we're stuck together, and how not to completely drive each other bloody insane. And then and we can extend that then afterwards to, you know, to others as well. We have to be on our own and learn how to become civilized human beings in a small setting, like in a little petri dish. And then we can go out back to the world as better people. Hey, you know, we were in a stressful situation, 6 people living in a little apartment, and we
Yeah.
didn't have much to do, and we had to get along, and we only had 2 computers and 6 cell phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, not 6, 3 cell phones. Whoa, really rough.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. What do you think? What do you think it's a difference? Meaning, this is like the first time, I guess, in history that we've had like a pandemic, a global outbreak that's really affected life. I mean, you know, SARS, Zika, you know, all those, you know, swine flu. They affected many people, but they didn't change like the fabric of society the way that this has. And though there have been, right, but on average every 100 years, right, 1918 we had, you know, the Spanish flu, but obviously that was kind of eh, swallowed up by the fact that it was the middle of World War One. So people were like, oh, okay, more people are dead, like we're losing, you know, everybody in World War One. And throughout history, there's been plagues, but this is the first time that we're having something like this with social media and with an intense interconnectivity with people. So, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think people are feeding off it even more? Do you think that, like, you know, this time being alone is gonna like get people to become more introspective? They're gonna now maybe miss the social interaction a little bit more. I think about it like now, like, you know, it's gotten to the point where people were, when they were out, let's say on a dinner date, and you're looking at your phone. Do you think now that people are not able to go out on dinner dates, and they're not able to go out to the movies with friends, and they're not able to go to a pool hall, and they're not able to go to, you know, yeshiva or whatever it is that you're going out and getting together, and all of a sudden you only can communicate with people over the phone? I guess obviously except for people that you're really close with. Is it, you think that's going to maybe give a stress to people appreciating human interaction?
Um, well, definitely. I think people will definitely learn to appreciate again human interaction because you know, because connecting like this is no replacement for real human interaction. So I think that's going to happen. But it's cool also to see. I mean, it can go both ways. Like you said, I think definitely people are feeding off of the fear, and you can use the kalim that we have for good and for bad. So definitely people are feeding off fears, and people are bugging out and spreading all kind of panic. At the same time, it's so amazing to see how connected we can be. Um, Last night I was sitting here, and Reb Shlomo Katz made
Yeah,
a
it was
Zoom
nice.
meeting, and it just invited tons of people, and he just sat playing music and saying good Torah, and people were just, it was really cool to be part of that. And you know, and the sound was terrible, and but like nobody cared. It was like, whoa, look, we're all
Yeah.
connected. We're using we're using what we have to be able to connect. It's really neat, and that's not the only one. I think there's been tons of other things going on at the same time also.
It was also great because everybody was on Zoom and you were able to see like everybody's videos, like
Yeah,
watch.
yeah.
It was a really cool experience. Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
So I don't know, but definitely.
I mean, the whole toilet paper thing. Like, seriously, why is everybody going crazy about toilet paper?
I don't
I mean,
even like toilet paper. Really, I don't like toilet paper. Use a bidet, folks. It's much more sanitary.
bidet, wipies. I mean, there's all different stuff. But it's like, you know, of all things to go crazy over, it was funny that like toilet paper became this thing and literally was going out. Like every place was just getting sold out of toilet paper only because people were losing it. They were panicking and they were like, ah, and everybody's panic buying. I definitely see the value in recognizing, hey, shipments might slow down and things like that. Okay, so like, stock up, but it just, there's a certain level of it that just cracks me up.
That's a great example of how social media is just making people crazy. Because I had a friend over here, he was telling me his dad's a supplier. Says he's got so much toilet paper. He's got warehouses full of toilet paper. He doesn't have to restock for the next 6 months, and he could just supply it to the stores as needed. People are stocking up on toilet paper. He's like, this is ridiculous. The only reason why there's a shortage is because people are grabbing it off the shelves, and just takes time to restock the store.
Right.
It's nuts.
It's hysterical. I'll tell you one cool thing though that I think is an idea that I put out in our family, and so I didn't tell you about it yet. But now I think that other people can also take advantage. I reached out to my father and to my father-in-law, our father-in-law actually, our father and our father-in-law. Go figure that one out. Basically, I told him, I said, now that the kids are all home, there's only so much time that each one of us, like I can sit and, give them a 30, 40, 45-minute learning session, but I still have my work that I need to do, and my wife is working, and everybody's busy. And so I said, maybe you can each take, a 15-minute video every day, put it out, either teaching something, telling the stories about, the Pesach Seder when you were a kid, or your parents, or what it was like, your journey in Judaism, or whatever it is, and share it with the family. And now you'll put in 15 minutes, and all of your children and grandchildren that are bored will take the time to sit and listen to it. And I think it's actually really, really great idea. I hope that they both listen to this, take advantage of this idea. But it's a really cool idea, especially for somebody who's got a lot of grandkids on different sides of the world. If you have some living in Israel, some in America, and everybody's home from school, the parents need some way to occupy them, and the grandparents should not be coming to actually help out, because older people are more at risk, and it just wouldn't, it's good. It's a good thing to keep separate.
Don't worry, they ain't coming. No one wants to be in quarantine.
Well, first of all, in America, this is the same thing going on. I mean, they're a little bit behind us in some places, but look, New York is shut down. New Jersey now has a what do they call it at night when you can't go out at night? New Jersey has a curfew, enforced curfew. That's intense. And yeah, and so basically, like if they can make a video and then share it with all their grandkids, and they're all going to want to listen to it, they're all going to want to watch it, they're all going to want to make it happen. I thought it was a really cool idea, and I think that
it's a fantastic idea. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm putting it out to all the grandparents out there. Do this and share it. It doesn't have to become, you don't have to put it on social media for the whole world to see. It's just a matter of sharing and teaching. Use social media, which right now, this could be an amazing tool. And your 15 minutes could be hours of watch time spread among all your children and grandchildren. And the truth is, then you'll have it. And your great-grandchildren will get to see it, and they'll get to know you through those videos, and so forth and onward.
And please be honest. This will be recorded for posterity. But no, it's a fantastic idea, and especially now, you said it's right before Pesach. It's the time to pass the Masorah on.
That's right.
It is the right time of year.
Yeah, I didn't just mean grandfathers, by the way, grandmothers too, and great aunts and uncles, and other people. Just you can share things. By the way, it happens to be cool that there are so many so many people. Yeah, hopefully a lot of people will listen to this podcast because they have nothing else to do.
Because you all are so bored. Come on, you got to admit we're better than Netflix.
Yeah, Gewalt. Mamash Gewalt. Anyhow, so that's it. If we can mamash, make this happen.
That is it, though. And like you said, curfew, I think it's past my curfew. It's after 12 o'clock at night, and it's been a long day. Working from home, I had to juggle my kids with all their Zoom classes. and learn with this one and learn with that one and organize this and organize that, make sure they're doing their chores at the right time so things are taken care of. You know, it's been a long day, plus full day of work, constant
It is.
chatter going on.
It's really hard to work at home when everybody's in the house and you're constantly split and you have to, then take care of this and that. The level of noise. I, by the way, recommend a little meditation throughout the day, pause, unwind, let the brain just, let it out a little bit.
Yeah, I wish. My way of coping, I know it's gonna be funny. My way of coping, especially there's no new sports happening now. Sports for me is the way to zone out. Even like if I'm working and I'm doing brainless work or whatever, just work that I have to do, you don't really need so much. Sometimes you don't need so much brains for it. Just responding to emails, you're doing this. I like to have sports on, but now I've been having the 2009 Yankees Phillies World Series on, just kind of in the background. The full games are on YouTube, and it's just a good zone. Sometimes when there's just stuff going on, and I'm sitting here. I've been working a lot just in my living room. Don't ask, just because I don't have such a big place to live here. And so this is the zone, and I need to be around for my kids and be on top of their classes and the schoolwork. So I've been working right here, but I'll just put the headphones on and have the baseball on. And something about baseball is so relaxing. Just that of the crowd and the pop of the ball and the glove and the bat hitting the ball, and then you hear that, the crowd goes crazy. I don't know, something about it is so relaxing. It really puts me in a good zone. So that's just me.
Yeah, there is definitely something very, I don't know what the right word is. That backdrop, that that it's funny that baseball has been having such issues recently. It used to be this like authentic, clean sport that is just the proper way that it's supposed to be, and all of a sudden it's become like more. There's been more. What do you call it?
Are we getting to another topic now? Cheating?
Yeah, there's been more cheating in baseball than anywhere else.
You know what?
That's the cause of Corona.
The Corona. It's the Astros' fault.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, it is late, and I think that we got to call it a night. So, Yaakov, this is Mama's been amazing, and I hope that we'll be able to have it. I know that we missed last week because of Purim and everything, and we almost missed this week because of the whole Corona thing, but hopefully we'll make it happen, even though we're not able to be together. And hopefully we'll be able to do a podcast one day from in front of the Holy Temple.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's get that Carbon Pesach podcast going on.
Amen. Amen to that. All right. Bezrat Hashem. Wishing you all health and goodness and happiness. And hopefully we'll be able to look back on this and take all the lessons that we learned from it and share them with each other and grow to be better, more wholesome people, more authentically Ovdei Hashem. And Bezrat Hashem, have the Geulah Shlema very, very soon.
Amen.